Hi guys, back again, and I'm upside down today because I don't feel like dragging this thing around, but hopefully your first week of school is going awesome, and hopefully I will be back next week. Okay, so we are going to continue, since I'm gone, we're going to continue just to review today, and we're going to multiply and divide integers. Woo, everybody's excited. The nice thing is, if you know your multiplication facts, this is really easy. It's a lot easier than adding and subtracting. If you don't know your multiplication facts, well, first of all, you should probably learn them. And second of all, you're going to have to use a scrap piece of paper to kind of use repeated addition then, okay? Yeah, so let's get started so you guys can get this done and get some more points. All right, here we go. You should have in front of you. Oh, let's get in. This. All right, so we're going to review multiplying and dividing integers today. Remember, integers are positive and negative whole numbers. Please put your first and last name here, right? First name, last name, so that I know who to give credit to. All right, let's talk about this. Multiplication and division rules are not the same as addition. They are not the same. Underline that. Okay? So multiplication and division, they have different rules. So if you multiply, you learned this already, a positive times a positive, right? Like, for example, if you had positive 2 times positive 5, you learned that a long time ago, you get positive 10. Guess what? If you multiply or if you divide a positive by a positive, same thing. If you did 10 divided by 5, you get 2, all right? And so you learned that a long time ago. Anytime you're both of them are positive, your answer will always be positive. And we learned that in elementary school. Now we decide to throw negatives in there, okay? So if you have a positive number, any positive number times a negative number, right? So let's say you have 2 times negative 5. Then you're going to get negative 10. If you divide a positive divided by a negative, let's say you have 10 divided by negative 5, you're still going to get a negative number, okay? If you're multiplying or dividing and there is a negative in there, your answer will always be negative. The negative takes precedence, okay? It doesn't matter if you switch the order. So if you start with your positive and then you do a negative, if you start with a negative, if you had done negative 2 times positive 5, you still get negative 10. If you had done negative 10 divided by positive 5, you still will get negative 2, okay? Negative is going to take precedence if there is positive and negative when we're multiplying or dividing. Now, where this gets tricky is what if they're both negative? So in this case, let's say you had negative 2 times negative 5. If they are both negative, then you get a positive. I know, math, right? All right, what if we get a negative divided by a negative? What if we have negative 10 divided by negative 5 and they're both negative? Oh, the answer is positive, okay? So if you have 2 negatives and you're multiplying or dividing, your answer will be positive. Clear as mud, right? Where it gets even wilder, is when we're doing more than 2, okay? But let's start out with just 2, okay? So let's say you have 6 times negative 4. Well, my advice to you is, first of all, do the multiplication without any negatives. So what would be 6 times 4? Think about that in your head. And if you don't know, you might have to do it out on a piece of paper where you add 6 4 times, okay? But 6 times 4 is 24. Okay, then you look at it and you have a 1 positive and 1 negative. Oh, and it's multiplication. So your answer's got to be negative. All right, let's go again. First of all, ignore the negative. Let's think about what is 12 divided by 3. And you can use your fingers if you need to. What is 12 divided by 3? If you said 4, you are correct. Okay, now you have a negative divided by a positive. Let's look up here. Where does it say that? Negative divided by positive. Oh, it's right here. Negative divided by positive. Oh, your answer will be negative again. Yay. All right, here we go. What does this mean? What does this mean? It's a fraction, yes, but fractions mean what? If you said multiplication, you are not correct. If you said division, yay, good for you. This means we divide. So this is saying what is 105? Okay, fractions mean divide. So first of all, let's get that answer. What is 105 divided by 5? You can use your hands. You can think in your head. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Figure it out. What is 105 divided by 5? It's not 20. It's 21. Okay, so it's 21. And now we're dividing, so we look, what is a positive divided by another positive? And we talked about that right from the beginning. Any positive divided by positive is going to be positive. So our answer is just 21. What if there's no sign in the middle of a set of parentheses? You have a negative 9, and then there's nothing, and then negative 20. This means there is a hiding times sign in there. So technically, this means negative 9 times negative 20, all right? If there's nothing between there and two parentheses are butting up to one another like this, that means times, always, always. Okay, so let's talk about the math. First of all, we got to figure out what is 9 times 20. And you can use your hands again, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. If you said 180, you are correct. Okay, now we have a negative times another negative. Let's look. Negative times a negative. Ooh, right here. Negative times a negative is, boop, positive. Bam. Okay, but what if there are 3 numbers to be multiplied? What if there's 3? All right, well, let's ignore this one. Let's ignore the last one. Let's talk about this first. Let's talk about negative 5 times 4. Again, let's figure out what is 5 times 4, first of all. All right, so here we go. 5 times 4 is, oh yay, it's 20. Good. And now we have a negative times a positive, right? So a negative times a positive will be negative. So now I really have negative 20, that was the negative 5 times 4, times negative 2. That's what I have. I figure that first answer out first. And then I bring down what I haven't used yet. So now, again, let's figure out the answer first. 20 times 2. Yeah, that's 40. Okay. And a negative times a negative, let's look. Negative times a negative is positive. Yay. All right. Don't get too crazy here. Again, what does this first part mean? 144, negative 144, divided by, that's what that fraction symbol means, negative 12. So let's figure it out. What is 144 divided by 12? If you don't know your 12s, this one might be hard, but you can add them up. 12 plus 12, 12, 12, 12. Oh, it's 12. And is it positive or negative? You have a negative divided by a negative? Oh, that's positive. All right, so this is really positive 12. Now let's add this on there. Times negative 3. All right, so let's figure out the answer first. What is 12 times 3? Again, if you don't know your 12s, let's study them. But 12 times 3 is, it's 36. If I write that, is that the correct final answer? Is 36 the correct answer? Well, you got to look. Is a positive times a negative positive? Well, if you go up here, scroll back up here, positive times a negative is negative. So if you put 36, that is incorrect. You have to put negative. Now, there is a general rule here for multiplying and dividing several negative integers, right? So in this case, right, you had 3 different terms. In this case, you had 3 different terms. So in this case, right, if you have an even number of negative signs, right? If you have 2 negative signs, they're going to cancel out and be positive. If you had 4 negative signs, 2 would cancel out and the other 2 would cancel out. And so you would end up with positive. So here's our general rule. An even number of negative signs will give you a positive answer. Positive answer. Ooh, wow, I just wrote that really crazy. Sorry about that. Okay, which means probably, right, if you have an odd number of negative signs, then what do you think your answer is going to be? Positive or negative? If you said positive, you're wrong. It will be negative. Negative answer. Now, you don't have to memorize that because if you can do it step by step, it works. But that's the pattern. Okay, here's what you got today on the back. Don't get freaked out at the top, okay? The questions 1 through 10 are not asking you to give the answer. It's just asking you, is the answer, when you do this all out, going to end up being positive or negative? You circle one. Now, the bottom, you got to answer the question, right? So you actually have to do the math and come up with the answer and put whether it is positive or negative on your answer, okay? These weird symbols here are time signs. I don't know. I got this worksheet from somewhere else, and those are the time signs on it. So it is what it is. All right, so that's your job today. When you're finished, there is a word search that you can do for points if you would like. Okay, that is it. Have a great rest of your day. Hopefully I will see you soon.